is Viewpoint. You're watching it with me, Griha. Now, after the historic visit to the United States of America, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is currently in Paris on a two-day visit. Prime Minister Modi will be attending the Bastille Day parade as the guest of honor at the invitation of the French President Emmanuel Macron. Now, in fact, a tri-service Indian Armed Forces contingent will also participate in the Bastille Day celebrations. Prime Minister Modi will be holding bilateral talks with the President. More importantly, several defense deals are likely to be inked in Paris. The French President will also be hosting a state banquet as well as a private dinner at the iconic Louvre Museum in the honor of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Indian Prime Minister is also scheduled to meet his French counterpart and the presidents of the Senate and the National Assembly during his visit. Interactions with the Indian diaspora and meeting CEOs of both Indian and French companies also form a part of Prime Minister Modi's itinerary. Now, before leaving for France, Prime Minister Modi also gave a rare interview to a French newspaper where he spoke about India's quote-unquote gaining its rightful position in the world, the pillars of India's soft power, and India as a natural leader of the global south, along with the country's vision for 2047.
Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has just touched down on his visit to France. Behind me, in a very special gesture, the Prime Minister of France, Madam Elizabeth Borne, has come personally to the airport to receive the Prime Minister.
I'm so proud to be an Indian. It's been 40 years that I've been working for the culture and academics in France. Thank you, Modi ji. Thank you. Proud Bharat. Very proud to be Bharatiya.
I was very excited. बहुत अच्छा लगा मोदी जी को इतने पास से देखने का.
Now, before I go to my guests on the broadcast this evening, joining me live this evening is my colleague Sanjay Suri, who is live with us from the Prime Minister's Hotel in Paris, the Hotel Plaza Athénée. Sanjay, first of all, take our viewers through what has been the kind of reception that the Prime Minister has received after landing. We've been told that the French Prime Minister herself was there to receive the Prime Minister at the airport, and after that there was, of course, a very important meeting with the diaspora, brief one. Although that celebratory gesture, when it is about the Prime Minister's reception, always really, happens to Prime Minister whenever he's meeting, whether we've seen something similar in the United States or before that in Australia, and now similar scenes in France.
Well, as we speak, the Prime Minister is due to leave the hotel from here any minute now, and he will be heading to a meeting with the head of the French Senate, Gerard Larcher, following which he will have a meeting with the Prime Minister, Elizabeth Borne, who was, as you were reporting, at the airport to receive him. So that was a little more than just minimal protocol, a very warm gesture and diplomatically a loaded one. Clearly a very strong and keen reception. We have a number of Indian members present here outside the hotel, bearing in mind that this is hardly representative of a level of enthusiasm because numbers here are quite controlled and the attendance carefully vetted. Security is, of course, a prime concern, but this is just by way of a sampler, and we're going to have a very huge community event in Paris in a few hours from now, and that's when we really will see the turnout and the enthusiasm that produces.
All right, Sanjay, thank you so much for all the inputs there. We'll, of course, keep coming back to you as and when we get that notice about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's movement to go ahead for that state banquet that has been specially prepared for him at the iconic Louvre Museum. Meanwhile, let me actually bring in my guest now on the broadcast. Major General Sanjay Suri, who's a defense expert, is joining us on the broadcast. Also joining me is Munira Faisal Abbas, who's an analyst and Bora community member. Now, let me begin with Major General Sanjay Suri. First of all, my colleague Sanjay, your namesake, was talking about the kind of warmth that the French administration has in fact lent to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. His France counterpart, Ms. Bourne, was there at the airport to receive him personally. What does one make of that warm gesture?
Yeah, definitely, Greha. One can make out of the warm gesture that Prime Minister Modi is a very respected leader and he has a global standing. In fact, he is the #1 global player today, or a leader. So that is the importance he has. And obviously, France has also seen what kind of super honor was bestowed on our Prime Minister during his visit to United States recently. It was a proper state visit organized by the President of United States. And coming on to the international standing of India, today we are the leaders of the global south. We are a bridge between the global north and between the global south. We are a partner. We are a country today. We are heard by everyone. India is the only unique country in the entire globe which everyone would like to talk to. There are countries who are isolated. Look at authoritarian rule of China. No one wants to do any trade, etc. with them. Today, everyone, in every manner, whether it is culture, trade, economics, defense, India is #1, and therefore everyone in the globe is planning to do everything with India, including, the Arab world, the African world, everywhere. Today, we have such a great standing in the entire globe. So India's importance has increased. Today, India, in this multilateralism world, we are yet maintaining a strategic autonomy.
Yes.
So keeping all this in mind, I think the gesture which the French government has given by the Prime Minister receiving our Prime Minister, and today there's a private dinner being hosted by President Macron. Tomorrow there is a state banquet, and all the bilateral and other meetings would be done with the Prime Minister. And tomorrow he will be attending the Bastille Parade as the chief guest, which is a great honor. And not only that, the Indian Armed Forces, from the Indian Army, the Air Force and Navy, we are going to participate along with the Army band. So this is a rare honor, and 3 Rafale aircraft, which will be piloted by Indian Air Force pilots. I think that's a unique honor. So this shows that India today is a global player, and the political leadership and our Indian diaspora also has a tremendous role. And not only that, the entire various, I would say, national power of a country, whether it is defense, whether it is economy, everything, culture, soft power, everything is making an impact on the world. And today, whole world respects India. And I think that is why we are getting the kind of applause everywhere. And I think France is a country which is always taking a lead role in the UNSC, that India needs to be immediately inducted into the UNSC as a permanent member. And I think to sum it up, it is the political will, the political leadership, entire Indian effort, and the youth of India, the IT power,
Absolutely.
the technical mind of youth. Everyone is getting attracted to India, and therefore everyone wants to do everything with India, co-jointly in terms of co-production, co-designing,
in fact,
transfer of technology.
Mr. Mayston, Major General Mayston, what you've also touched upon is the crucial Rafale-M deals. Let me actually take this opportunity to welcome Mr. G. Parthasarthi, who's a former diplomat, also on the broadcast. And Mr. Parthasarthi, I'd like you to, in fact, throw light on how did this deal come about and how important is this one for India?
Well, let me just say that I have been at least with 2 past prime ministers on visits to France, and I have never quite seen the sort of reception which has now been accorded to Mr. Modi in this visit. So I think the fact of the matter is that in terms of importance attached to India, in terms of what France looks forward to, and in terms of what they're prepared to do to us, for us, I think there is a substantive movement forward. And the Prime Minister's visit, the very fact that he has a personal rapport with President Macron has added to this. Now, coming to the substance of this visit, the fact of the matter is we look forward to working very closely with France in the coming G50 meeting, which we are hosting in Delhi. It's a G50 summit. But as I said, I've seen past visits in France, participated in them. This is unique. The way President Macron is personally reaching out to an Indian Prime Minister. I find this really unique. But having said that, I think we should also concentrate on substance instead of appearances and mere protocol. The fact of the matter is that France has been a reliable supplier of weapons. I recall when I was in the army in '65, we were using French AMX tanks in the Cham sector. Therefore, thereafter, in a diplomatic context, when it comes to supply of weapons, France has been way ahead in terms of technology, spares, and so on. Secondly, the fact of the matter is that the rapport has gone beyond that. In political terms, France was one of the countries in the West when the Americans and Chinese were opposed to us, which backed us to the hilt during the '71 conflict. And that sort of a relationship with India has now been taken to a new level. Because, as I said, now we are talking of, yes, fighter jets. We've been receiving fighter jets from the Messiers in the 1950s from France, but they're giving us their best. And they're giving the fighter jets to us, not just for aerial combat, but also for taking off from our aircraft carrier. I think this is the best aircraft carrier we can get. And this has been new. And the sort of relationship which President Macron has established with Prime Minister Modi is something I haven't seen in the past between the leaders of the two countries.
Okay. What we are going to do, Mr. G. Parthasarathi, what we are going to do is also talk further about the defense deal. But let me now take this opportunity to bring in Mitra into this discussion, because there is a huge outreach that the Prime Minister is going to be making in France with the Bora Muslim community. And that also becomes an important and underlined aspect of this visit. Mitra, how do you see that happening, considering there's a huge Muslim population as far as France is concerned, but especially meeting with the Bora community stakeholders? How do you see this move?
It's a very proud moment. It's a very proud moment for all the Indian origins here, and especially for the Dawoodi Bohra community living here in France. All of us are here today to welcome wholeheartedly our dear Prime Minister. As we all know, there is a very warm relationship that the community shares with our Prime Minister. And we want to show here in France as well, the community is one community with equal support and love to him. In fact, I'm also here not just as a patriotic Indian, not just as a loyal resident of France, a country which is so warm and beautiful, but also as a member of Dawoodi Bohra community. And we look forward to seeing him soon. In fact, I've just arrived at the venue last and we look forward to seeing him and welcoming him and passing the message from our community.
Okay.
Overall, it's a great moment. It's a proud moment. And as always, as all over the world, globally, we are there to show our warm and support. And likewise, we are here in France. It's nonetheless. Okay. So it's a great moment.
All right.
And
what's better moment going back to the defense question? Mitra, I'll come back to you. Thank you so much for that answer. I'll come back to you about the outreach by the Prime Minister as far as the community goes. But Mr. Parthasarathi, talking about these procurements, you were throwing light and underlining how important this is for India and also the India-France collaboration as far as Project 75 is concerned. But given the Atmanirbharta push that India is banking upon, why was there a need for these procurements?
Let's look at it this way. That Atmanirbharta is not achieved overnight. But certainly the aircraft industry, especially on the defense side, and the DRDO, have now been really active in getting indigenous manufactured content on every defense deal. So what is important is that along with this deal, we also have other areas of cooperation. France has helped us out when we needed it in nuclear cooperation. And therefore, the provision of not only the aircraft, but also the submarines is going to give the Indian Navy a serious and strong presence across the Indian Ocean. And that is where China is now coming in a big way. So I think the French have looked at India separately. They have not sort of linked us with Pakistan or anything. And right now, as I can see it, this personal rapport between the Prime Minister and President Macron is really helping the process, because I have not known of a prime ministerial visit abroad, and I've been on about 25 of them, where the Indian Prime Minister has been received with such grandeur and such respect for India.
Okay. Major General Mason, let me bring you in here, and just taking a cue from this very point that Mr. Parthasarathy is making, talking about the SAW aviation as compared to the US F-18 Super Hornet. How do you think France had an edge over US that this deal has been settled between India and France?
See, India has gone for a large number of different types of aircrafts. The reason being, every different aircraft has different advantages. That is the first and foremost thing which has to be understood. Because it's not only reliability on one type of aircraft, the maneuverability of an aircraft, the range, the kind of weapon system it carries, avionics, there are a large number of factors. So obviously, our strength today lies by diversification, and therefore we are having number of aircraft right from the Russian Sukhoi and Mirage and Jaguar and so many of different type of aircrafts, and the latest addition is of course the Rafale. And we must always keep in mind that it is the latest generation of equipment which we have to keep in mind, especially the aircraft. Now coming on to Rafale, it definitely has lots of advantages, and today the fact of the matter is that we are also inducting Rafale-Marine aircraft for the Indian Navy, which will be on board on the INS Vikrant. So what I'm trying to say is that keeping this aspect in mind, firstly, we achieve homogeneity, that two different arms of the Indian Defence Services are having the same aircraft, that is the Rafale M. Of course, there are some minor modifications because the landing gear kit has to be very, very hard because it's landing on a surface, moving surface. Number two, it has to have foldable wings. Because obviously more number of aircrafts can be stored once the wings are folded. So there are certain minor things, but basic template is that MRO facilities, maintenance, repair, organization, that would be advantage. And half of these things now we are going to see. You have raised the question of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And this is exactly what Atmanirbhar Bharat is, that our concept is very clear. We have to be Atmanirbhar Bharat, but we have to have a base. And that basis, we have to have joint collaboration, transfer of technology, expertise has to be there, MRO has to be there in place, logistics has to be there, assured logistics, all these things, and therefore that is leading to Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Okay.
And number of things like Coimbatore, we are manufacturing some of the Rafale parts, and avionics are being manufactured in India of number of aircraft, including of the American aircraft and MQ-9B.
Absolutely.
So what the essence is, that this itself is leading to self-reliance, because with so many countries we are having defense deals, we are doing joint collaboration, joint production, joint designing, and the latest critical emerging technology.
Mr. Parthasarathy, in fact, moving away from the defense question, because I'm short on time on the broadcast, now I'd like to understand, there was so much talk around the rare interview that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given to La Echoes, as opposed to the more popular French newspaper, that is La Monde, and there's so much talk around that. Why was that done? What are your views on it?
Look, this is a decision which the Prime Minister's office and the Prime Minister alone make. So when a program goes up to the Prime Minister, they in this, we look at how a station has in the past reflected India and has the view it has taken, and the basis of the decision making is a serious assessment that this is the station which will best represent the Indian point of view. A Prime Minister going abroad does not just rush into the most popular station.
Okay.
He looks into what is most utilitarian for India.
Absolutely.
And that is a consideration which his office and his media advisors give him.
All right.
And obviously there has been.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me.